So if I have the ability to start becoming in charge of this, which is signaling my genes, I now have the ability to turn off the genes for disease, turn on the genes for healing, and change the way my body behaves.
Welcome, everyone, to the third annual Symptom-Free MS Summit. I have the pleasure of having an incredible friend and practitioner with me by the name of Talia Halber. And I'm so happy that she is with us today. So if you don't know about Talia is a coach, healer, and hypnotherapist specializing in reversing autoimmune diseases. And after being diagnosed with MS herself, she went on a personal healing journey, delving into the mind-body connection and leveraging it to reverse symptoms, heal the body at a cellular level. Isn't that amazing that she's taking a look at it? It's not just healing as a gregarious thing out there. She wants to heal every cell within your body and rebuild the trust and freedom often lost after an MS diagnosis. So thanks to her dedicated work, Talia successfully reversed challenging symptoms she once lived with, such as vision issues, fatigue, numbness, weakness in her hands and legs, pins and needle sensations throughout her body, and brain fog. And she regained the ability to walk independently. Now, if that excites you, you're like, wait a second, there's a woman here that went through this. And you're telling me I could get to that space too? And the answer is yes. And you're going to find out today. So through her coaching, workshops, and her flagship program, the Mind to Body Method, Talia imparts her unique techniques to empower others. She helps them take control of their minds and use them consciously, leading to healing, symptom reversal, pain relief, and the creation of the life they genuinely desire. So after she has touched countless lives globally, Talia's mission is to support people on their healing journey and spread the belief that love is the foundation of healing, emotionally and physically. And it is available to everyone who chooses it wholeheartedly. Talia, thank you so much for being with us today during the summit.
Absolutely, absolutely. My pleasure. You know, Matt, I always say it at this point, I support people with all types of autoimmune diseases, but my heart always remains with those who are diagnosed with MS specifically, because obviously, you know, and I know how challenging, extremely challenging it can be to live with MS. And there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing somebody that was challenged once or for a while or for decades sometimes, healing and freeing their bodies. So I'm very excited for all the possibilities that your event is opening up for individuals around the world. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you for saying that. You know, we were talking a little bit of pre-show and we were taking a look, and as I read your bio, a question came up for me. Mm-hmm. So is it available for us to shift our mind to reverse symptoms? So to reverse your MS symptoms, is it possible to shift your mind to do that?
That is the main focus of all the work that I do. And the answer is absolutely yes. In a moment, I can share with you if you want. I just had a call with somebody who just finished going through a woman with MS that just went through my 3 months program where we focus mainly on that, and the results will move all of you that are listening to this, because you all deserve to have it. And yet these things are happening. It's just that mainstream doctors are not exactly sharing that, so the knowledge is not out there. So in a moment, I could speak into that, but let's touch directly into what you just said. Mm-hmm. Our minds, or in other words, let's call it our perception, right? The way that I process the information in the outside world in a way that impacts the inner world of me, that is my body, right?
Right.
It's almost like a filter system that I have in my mind. So if my mind is, let's say, seeing through pain and darkness and negativity and trauma and pain and whatever it is that I went through in the past that impacted me, and I process my reality, what happens in my life based on that, my body, the genes in my body are receiving signals, because we have science that proves that the perception, our perception and our inner environment is what's signaling on our genes. If I see life in that specific way, out of my pain, out of fear, out of, oh my God, I'm going to be sick forever, the signals that are being sent into my genes are related to that type of perception. When I focus on my mind, I shift the way I process what happens in my outer world. I can shift the signals that are being sent into my inner world. And that is the way I'm signaling or activating, let's say, certain genes. Okay. So if I have the ability to start becoming in charge of this, which is signaling my genes, I now have the ability to, in a way, turn off the genes for disease, turn on the genes for healing, and change the way my body behaves. This is where we're talking about, and I assume that many of you watching us have heard this before. But a lot of people say only matter can affect matter. So if my body is something physical, right? Matter, it's a term in physics. It basically says, I can touch my body, I can see my body, something I can feel, I can smell, I can touch, I can see, I can all of it. If that's physical, I can only impact my body, create changes in my body with something that is also physical. Matter. Only matter can affect matter. That's the approach of take medication, take shots, take pills, take this.
Yes. We
already know that the human body is made of energy, mainly, right? And I know there's so many talks probably talking about this, so I'm not going to go there, but we also know that energy affects energy. The human body is made of energy. And if energy affects energy, how else can I impact my body besides poisoning it? And everything is vibrating on a certain frequency. Your thoughts that are impacted by your perception, your mind as well, the filtering system we just talked about.
Yeah.
So if all of it is energy, that impacts my body, that is energy too.
Okay. So
a bit deep, a bit big right off the bat to open like that, I know. But that's the healing game. That's where the magic happens.
So really what keeps us then, following that logical thread, what keeps us where we are at is our past, is the story we continue to tell ourselves.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Then how do we change that? How do we step into a new way of being if we are essentially, what I'm going to use is a word, trapped? If we feel that we're trapped in our past story, this person always does this to me, or this shows up this way, this always happens to me. If we're stuck in that thread, how do we get out of it?
Yeah, really good question. The biggest challenge I'm noticing that people are having in this journey is, first of all, understanding that they have a story. Because if you will talk to many individuals, they would say, this is not a story, that's my reality. This is not a story, that's my past, that's what happened. Now, hear us, please. I'm saying us because I know, Matt, you agree with all of this, but yeah. Hear me saying, it's not that things didn't happen, and it's not negating any of the pain that we experienced in the past. And me, just like you, have gone through a lot of difficult challenges in the past.
Yes.
What we're talking about here is this. Human beings, all of us, usually don't experience reality for what it is. We experience reality in a way that what we actually end up experiencing is our interpretation of reality, our story to reality. And then what we carry throughout the years is also this interpretation or story. For example, I always give you this example, so I'm just going to use it because it's just so easy to understand, because
Sure.
it's unfortunately very common these days. My dad left us in a young age, right? He was just not there for us. For me, my story that I lived with for so many years is that I'm a bad person, because otherwise my dad would stay, right? The children feel like they should love us unconditionally, and they should, but it's not always happening. So I was broken. Something was wrong with me. I was unlovable. I was not good enough. I need to try more than other people in life, because otherwise nobody going to choose me, or jobs not going to choose me, or different, opportunities in life. I'm not going to be chosen as other people because I'm not as good, right? I lived from all these interpretations that I just gave you.
Okay.
What actually happened in reality, Matt? Dad left. That's it. Dad left. He had other things to do, and he chose that over being in the same household as me and my siblings. But I lived my traumas, my pain, my limiting beliefs, my whole life, the stress, the chronic stress that I ended up living with and creating in my body, that we know now is a huge part of a body that develops MS.
Mm-hmm.
I lived and experienced all of that because of the way, the story that I told myself about my dad living. So there's one that was the reality, the other one was my story. So a lot of, to answer your question, this is not an easy step of this journey. Because when people start healing, usually they're like, in their 30s, in their 40s, 50s, 60s. For a decent time of your life, you've been believing in that thing to be a reality. And a common experience for people is that being right about everything makes us feel confident about ourselves, right?
Sure.
Makes us feel something we want to feel. We don't want to feel like we're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And more than that, I don't want to feel like I was wrong about my whole life. I don't want to feel like I was wrong for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years.
Right.
So some people prefer to keep the old story as a fact, believing it's a fact and not a story, rather over being wrong about it. So this might be the biggest lesson you guys are already getting from this. Don't be afraid to be wrong about the way you had it, about the story you had about your life. Yeah. The ability to be wrong. It's not really wrong. It's just like, that's the best we had at the time. But the ability to be wrong about this actually opens up possibilities to create a future that is outside of that very limiting reality.
Okay. What's fascinating about this is you're telling me that your perception at a young age, which you are an incredible observer, terrible interpreter at a young age, you saw that event happening with your dad, and then that story began playing out in your life. And I love how you said the limiting aspect of that story affected your decisions, affected your choices, how you viewed yourself, whether I should be in stress. That aspect of whether or not you were enough or not was dictated by a perception of a very young little girl.
Exactly. Because to me, what happens when you tell the same story over and over again, or you hear the same story over and over again? You start believing in it.
Yeah.
And the moment that you're...
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I just wanted to say that the moment that you believe in something, now you live by it. Because people forget that beliefs are a choice. And at some point, we start living by them as if they're facts. And that is where we start really limiting ourselves, limiting what is possible for us. And you and I do a lot of work about, or a lot of our healing work is based on our findings from quantum physics at this point that is teaching us that anything is actually possible. The version of you that is already healthy exists. It might not be in this reality, but it's in a parallel reality that you as any individual has the ability to match themselves into it and then call it in. So what is possible for me now will always be based on the story that I'm telling myself. So again, to bring it back to your question,
Yeah.
unless you're willing to accept that even though it's been your true experience for so many years, no matter how many years, your true experience and whatever you experienced at the time was very real for you, unless you are willing to be wrong about not having every part of it as a fact and some of it being an interpretation that you made or start looking at as a fact over time, it's going to be very challenging to change it. The moment that we're able to, now there's so many methods to start implementing or really recoding the mind. You know, I'm doing hypnotherapy with my with the people I guide towards healing. We're using so many different methods to start really reprogram our subconscious. The subconscious is really what's regularly, you know, impacting our body, impacting the biology and signaling the body. So if I'm able to really shift through that, the results are very fast to show in the body and symptoms reversal.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to point to is I've been doing a lot of work around quantum physics and quantum reality. And if you read the book Quantum Body by Dr. Deepak Chopra, he alludes to this and he points to it. So what they're seeing now is if I shift my perception of who I feel I am now, then my body and my world around me will begin shifting. Seems very easy. Seems very like, oh, okay, so I just shift into a mentality of I'm really rich and then I'll be rich. But is it that easy or does it get more robust than that?
It's a really good question that you just asked, because the truth is that it can be that easy. The moment that you actually get to the point that you're really clearing yourself from the past and allowing yourself to fully be in that new way of being, thinking, feeling, behaving in a way that's matching the new reality, yes, this can happen in a second. But what I'm noticing through doing this work with so many individuals is that to get to that point is what takes the steps, is what takes the time, because individuals are so attached. We're attached. It's a human thing. It's not easy to, like I talked about in a really easy way now, but it takes courage to go through the stuff that I just shared. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's not that easy. It has a lot of discomfort through this journey. And this is why a lot of people choose to not heal. This is why a lot of people end up staying sick. That's something to keep in mind, because everybody can. We learn it from science. It's been proven over and over in so many ways. I'm seeing it in my practice so many times, not just you and I. And the steps of getting to the stage that I can call in a new reality, that is where it takes the work, the commitment, the everyday going for it again, being redundant with doing certain practices or learning to speak to ourselves and to others in different ways. Because I've been redundant my whole life with one story. So now you're going to take some repetition. Repetition is impacting the subconscious.
Yeah.
So you're going to take some work to get to that stage. The moment that I did, if I stayed committed enough, courageous enough, now I can be a whole match to a new reality. And that reality might be my healthy self, if this is what I'm aiming for, right? Because I can aim to whatever it is that I want.
But you said something really powerful. It's not the conscious mind. Is that like the director of the play, where the subconscious mind acts out the play and creates a reality for the audience, the body? So then under that premise, then what you are consciously thinking, does that affect the subconscious mind and what you believe, which then ultimately changes your external reality?
So the conscious mind is really what the stuff I desire, right? I know I'm aware that I want this. I'm aware that I want this. And this is what directs us towards our goals. Our goals usually don't come from our subconscious.
Mhm.
They come from what I'm in different times in my life. It would change, right? A kid might want to be one thing, and as an adult, may want something else. And if you guys are now working towards healing, your conscious goal is to heal your body. The
Mhm.
subconscious is what's really controlling the play, because
Okay.
that is what's in the so I can have some of my thoughts are like, I want to do this, I want to change this, I want to work on this, da, 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 da. If I'm thinking about healing, but my subconscious doesn't believe in that, I believe I'm going to be sick forever, whatever, all these thoughts are running in the background when behind your consciousness. Now, if these are my thoughts and I really don't believe I can heal, and I'm thinking, the wheelchair is coming, will I be a burden on my family? Will I be able to play with my grandkids? Am I going to need to quit my job because my brain fog is getting, is worsening? And how will finances be and all this? The energy of fear is taking over. And it's so much more impactful than how much I manage to think about my goals. Because maybe it makes me think about my goals from actually something a lot of people don't realize. I'm thinking about my healing goals from an filter of lack. I want it, but I don't have it. Instead of I want it and I'm stepping into having it, which is how we start changing our energy and our reality.
Okay. So, what you're going to recommend to everybody at this moment is to be all in, to make that full step into it and decide in that moment, I'm not going to live by this old story anymore.
That that is life changing. I have to share with you. It was just like 2 hours ago that I had a conversation with an amazing woman that just went through Mind to Body,
Mhm.
my program that I usually work with people with MS, and I'm sharing it because so many people are, I'm big on social media, right? And
Yeah.
every day I'm receiving messages that are heartbreaking. Like people are calling me a liar. And, I'm ruining people's lives by saying that healing is possible and like really terrible stuff. And one of the things that I always hear is that if you've been sick for too long, you can't heal. And if the damage has been there for a long time, there's no chance. So Julie, this amazing woman I'm talking about now, has been living with MS for 30 years. 30 years.
Wow.
Very limited, very, very drastic symptoms between bladder to pain, brain fog, fatigue, and all of them severe.
Yeah.
The ability to can't even stand for a second, has to have support all the time. Otherwise, no balance.
Yeah.
In 3 months, she reversed all of her symptoms by 50% on average, some of them 70%.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. I know it's easier sometimes to just hold on to the fear and say, I'm just not going to try because it's too scary to try things and not succeed. But I can share so many stories like this one that I just shared.
Mhm.
And I want each one of you listening to this to pause this if you need to. Close your eyes, tap into your heart, and let yourself feel now what it would feel like to have this story shared about you, because you're as capable. We are all capable. No one is better or different, but she did what you and I, Matt, you and I already know is working.
Mhm.
And she followed something that she believed in that is possible for her. So what if you just start believing and then do what seems impossible? Because it's possible. It just seemed impossible.
That's a bold step. Because if I've been living in the old story, that's familiar, that's known, that's comfortable, that's safe. Even though the body may be riddled with dis-ease, or you're noticing your walking is not going well, or cog fog, or whatever you're telling yourself. And it's not even just telling what you're physically seeing inside of your body right now. If so what you're saying is is if I focus on the disability, then that has to be what's in my reality.
Basically, yes. We know that our focus, our thoughts, their energy, and what I give energy to expands. And if I believe individuals here know the term like attracts like, it means that anything with similar energy will attract to each other. So if I focus on the disability, the lack, the fear, the not able to, I will call into my life more situations, more reality that is matching that frequency of lack.
Okay.
So if that's all my focus, that's where also progression can happen. Or some people stay in the same way, but healing doesn't happen.
So then if I notice a symptom coming in, then I focus on the symptom again. I focus on how it's taking me down. And then, like you had said earlier, fear enters into my space. And then I attract more things like attracts like that are fearful.
Exactly. And notice, you can probably relate to what I'm saying because you worked with so many and met so many individuals that were diagnosed with MS specifically. Our symptoms and the diagnosis, each person, the disease that each person receives is feedback, right? It shows up for a certain way, for a certain reason, the way I see it. And what I'm noticing is that almost every person with MS, if not all, had a control, a very strong need to control that comes out of fear prior to being diagnosed. Now, if you think about this, the symptoms that show up with MS, what do they do to us? They limit our freedom. They take away our freedom, right? Yeah. They limit my ability to move independently, to live the way I want to live. They limit my ability to be in charge of my life. Maybe they limit my freedom outside, right? Maybe if it comes to bladder, not just to movement. There's so much, like, it's almost like life is telling you, stop trying to go in this direction. When I say life, I mean God, universe, whatever you believe in, any higher power that you believe in, is trying to just slow you down and tell you, hey, you trying to force life into your path is not working for you. And when you start looking at your symptoms from an angle of, this is not my body trying to screw me over, or whatever negative stuff we tell ourselves.
Right.
This is feedback, a message that I receive that is here to show me something I wouldn't see without it.
Ooh,
now I get the ability to A, not let that symptom that showed up bring me down and call more of it. And B, I have a new listening. I have the ability to notice what's in my space. How do I contribute to what shows up in my reality? Because everything that shows up, and I apologize, or not really, if it hurts anybody, but that's a powerful place to step into. So if it hurts us, maybe there's a reason it touches you, So if it's going to open a possibility for you, I'm not apologizing for that, but I know that the journey can hurt.
Yeah.
Let's just be wrong about the way you had it even here. Let's connect it to what we said at the beginning. We are the creators of our reality. I have lived in a way that called in MS. I, energetically, in my mind, in my thoughts, in my way of living, attacked myself, and I called in a disease that A, created a self-attack system in a body, process in a body, and B, stopped me from keeping on doing things the way I did before. I had to get like a strong stop sign. And I believe that all of our listeners, as well as you, have been through something similar. Yes. The control, the fear, the trying to force life into my way. So if we stop and listen, we start noticing some things we can't hear without it. And then there are new possibilities that are opening up for us.
Wow, this is powerful. It puts the control back in our hands. So, what do you recommend for all of our listeners that are like, okay, if there's like a little bit of a seed planting, you're like, I wonder if she's really right. I wonder, and they become curious about this space. What do you recommend as a first step for them?
Mm. That's a practice that I really love doing with anyone that's willing to challenge themselves to work on their story. It can be a challenging practice, but just stay with it, even if you feel like it's hard. Just stay with it and keep practicing.
Okay.
Take something that happened in your life, and
Okay.
either in your mind or pen and paper, which is probably a better suggestion here. Write your own story about that thing that happened. Write your own story. Same way you had it. Same way when you came back home and you were pissed off or something, all the stuff that you told yourself about what happened. Now, pick something that there was another person involved in that, not just you. And then the second step of this exercise, write the story about the same event from the other person's point of view as if you are them. Okay?
Okay.
Third step of this exercise, imagine you're somebody else, not you and not the person involved. Somebody that's not even related to this event. And if you are having a hard time, choose somebody that has completely opposite personality to yours, thinking differently, always acting differently, always choose a different route than you do. And then write the story about what happened from that person's point of view. Listening to me, this sounds easy. If you're choosing to go into this, you'll see this is not easy. And the more challenging it is, the more challenging it is if you're going for it, the more work you're doing on it. What you're doing here is really practicing your mind's ability to starting to change the stories. Start with something that isn't huge. Don't go to an old trauma or something like that right away. Choose something from last week. Somebody pissed you off or something. Something easy, something fresh. The more you start seeing, what I want you to achieve from this process is to show yourself that any person can have different point of views, different perceptions, perspective, and therefore every reality, every situation is actually a story. And this will start working on your awareness, showing you, oh, there might be actually a possibility that my past, that I lived by until now, has just been my story. And we gain the confidence in working on that and starting to realize, oh, I can actually shift this. And the moment that you start shifting this, the sky's the limit when it comes to what you're creating, including the human body, the behavior of your genes, focusing on shifting your cells.
Yes.
The way they behave.
Changing your quantum reality.
That.
But you're talking about two powerful things: becoming aware and accepting what is.
Without accepting what is currently presenting itself in the moment, I basically, whether I realize it or not, my energy is going against it. I resist what happens. I tell myself, this is wrong, this is not good. So even though I try to give all my focus to healing and shifting my vibration and my story and my life and all that, the energy in the background of resistance, of I don't agree with what happens, I'm upset about what happens, I want to change what happens from this, space of lack, again, or fear, is limiting the change that we can create in another way. So accepting what's in the moment is a very important step. By itself, this makes such an energetic shift that can support people in actually noticing difference in the body already.
And this is what you're noticing with your client, with that beautiful story you said of your client of that you met today, how she is shifting her story.
You know what? Let me share one more thing because of your previous question that you asked me how easy it is. Like, is it easy to shift your reality, right? Or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful man I deeply love with multiple sclerosis that recently started working with me. He lives in England, 17 years of MS. Out of the 17 years, 16 years of living with food drop.
Okay.
Matt, in 2 weeks, the food drop went away. Two
Oh,
weeks.
Living 16 years with foot drop, and in 2 weeks, the body started to work again, picking up his toes so he didn't. Powerful.
Now, hear me, Matt. I think that eating well and doing other things is very important. Every person that I work with, I always make recommendations there as well. And specifically in this story here, he was not ready for these changes yet. He still wasn't into making any dietary changes. And everything I'm talking about here was created just by this, the stuff you and I just talked about.
Wow.
2 weeks.
So it is possible, but if you believe it, if you believe that this step is powerful, and that sounds like with this gentleman that you worked with, his mind began shifting into a new reality.
That is exactly it. That's exactly what happened.
Unbelievable. Talia,
Unbelievable.
like I look at the work you do as being so powerful because there are no limitations. The only limitations that we have are the ones that we give ourselves.
You said it all here. Because what is MS? Again, the limitation in the body. So when I manage to really step into it, remove those limitations, my body does too.
Yes.
And I have to share something. I was, for those of you being new here, I believe that I've been on the symposium since year one, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
And one time somebody talked to me privately that I was introduced to in this. She was introduced to me in one of your summits. Mm-hmm. She's like, Talia, everything you talk about is just too much out there. It's too much out there. And that like, it didn't land that like the conversation about energy and mind and love and all of that is actually related to the body. And then one time I created this webinar that I connected all of this conversation to the science behind it that makes the impact on the body.
Yeah.
And she's like, now I get it. And she kept using the words like out there, just too much out there. And I totally understand what she was saying, because talk to me in this language and share all this with me before I was diagnosed with MS and introduced to this work. Mm-hmm. I would think you're out of your mind, basically. Probably. Yeah. Very likely, I should probably say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I did at the beginning when I started this work. And this goes back like 7 years ago when I started exploring this, trying to get my body to actually not end up in a wheelchair based on what the doctors told me. And it wasn't until all of a sudden it clicked. I was like, wait a second, there's science behind this. There's actually the physical elements of the cell and the body and energy and everything out there. And that's when my reality began to shift.
That's the magic. Everybody's looking for the magic pill. Here it is. You already have it.
You already have it within you. Talia, I want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us during the summit this year. Your energy, your fire, your passion for what you do is so infectious. And I hope everybody takes a step towards Talia's free gift, because in that can be the answer that is for you and the step to take. So thank you so much. You are such a gift. You are such a beacon of light and love. And thank you so much for leading this beautiful group.
I am so appreciative of this time, of your work. may you keep having the energy to keep sharing all this wisdom and gifts that we all received with everybody in need. I will say this about the free gift. This year, I decided to uh, put some time aside for your listeners and
Yeah.
jump on calls to support individuals.
Wow.
But there's only so much time. So I would say this: those of you who are really in a place that are ready to take step and are really serious about going through the discomfort and healing, book a call. If you just want to chat, that's not the best time for it because there's only so much time. And I really want to talk to those who are ready to heal because this is my passion. This is my mission on earth. And I want to make sure that I have enough time to support all of you. Matt, thank you again. I love you dearly, my friend.
I love you too. You're so incredible. So thank you, thank you, thank you.